let's get into this. Let's talk about this whole Zillow debacle. So Zillow, which is it's a very well-known website for searching homes for sale, right? They got into the home flipping business about 2 years ago, December of 2019. So they launched this program called Zillow Offers. And they started in Southern California, like a lot of these companies do. And then they kind of expanded to 25 different cities across the country. Well, earlier this month, on November 2nd, they announced that they would be getting out of the home flipping business. They also laid off 25% of their workforce, by the way. But this was kind of attached to really dismal third quarter earnings for this year. And so the Zillow CEO, his name is Rich Barton, he came out with a quote that said, we've determined the unpredictability in forecasting home prices far exceeds what we anticipated. Continuing to scale Zillow Offers would result in too much earnings and balance sheet volatility. Now, Barton also told CNBC's Closing Bell after the report that Zillow's ultimate failure was its inability to predict housing prices accurately. Isn't that interesting? We've all heard of a little something called Zestimates, right? So many people have hung their hat on what Zillow says their home is worth. Their own tool didn't even work to help them in the home flipping business. And so here's what happened. So their stock, they're a publicly traded company. Their stock went from $106 a share on October 29th, which was a Friday. They had the announcement on the 2nd, which is a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, November 3rd, their share dropped to $66. Now they're at $57 a share. In the third quarter of this year, they lost $328 million in net income, which was down 929% year over year. Diluted earnings per share was negative 1.29, which was down 906%. And the year over year net profit margin was down 18.9%, which was down 413% year over year. So, a lot goes into Zillow's stock price, obviously, and their valuation, since it's a multifaceted media company. But the homes segment, which is mostly comprised of Zillow Offers, lost $422 million in the third quarter, which was obviously enough to produce a net loss for the entire company. The reality is they just bought too many homes at too high a price. They kind of broke the cardinal rule when it comes to flipping homes. You make your money in a flip when you buy it, not when you sell it. When you're flipping property, which I have done numerous times, I've helped dozens and dozens of investors do it. We've got an investor we work with right now that does it to the tune of about 30 times a month all over the state. We're their agent for that. So we understand the game extremely well. We are very well versed when it comes to working with investors. I'm an investor myself, both in terms of buying and flipping or holding or wholesaling or financing it through private money that I provide other investors. But anyways, I know the game really well. So in investing, you control the controllables. One of them being, and probably the most important of them being, how much you pay for the property. Because when you're flipping property, you reverse engineer the details and the financials of it. You say, well, all right, here's how much I think it's going to cost to renovate. Here's how much I think I can sell it for. Here are the costs associated with selling it. Here's what I know I need to buy it for in order to achieve that projected ROI. And if I can't get it at or below this price, there has to be a stopping point. That's why investment real estate really takes the emotion out of the decision. You're either playing red light, green light. This investment works or it doesn't. And so, Zillow has been in the hot seat, especially among realtors, for years. They said they would never be a competitor of ours. Real estate agents, for those of you that don't know, for a very long time, Zillow was, for a lot of agents, it was like their number one lead source. And so the way it would work is, we have all these folks that go to Zillow on a monthly basis. And let's say that, I wanted to receive leads from Zillow in a specific zip code. Well, they make money on you so many different ways, and they continue to cut the pie into smaller and smaller pieces without reducing expenses. It used to just be, okay, well, yeah, we'll give you buyer and seller leads in this zip code. And then it used to be, oh, you know what? If you want to be the only person that appears on your listings online, and if you want to be the only person that receives those phone calls, we got to charge you more for that. And then they said, well, you know what? We'll keep you up there, but then we're going to add 2 or 3 other agents to the account just so that there are more pigs at the trough, just so that the consumer receives a better experience. Oh, you want seller offers? Well, now we're splitting up buyer leads and seller leads. They keep changing. They keep altering. They keep taking the same leads and cutting them up differently. And then they said, well, hey, you know what? We're doing these Zillow offers now. So I know I said that we'd never be a competitor of yours, but hey, we're going to offer this hassle-free experience. Sellers don't need to prep their home for sale anymore. They don't have to clean it up prior to showings. They don't have to make repairs, so on and so forth. We'll just buy it as is cash. But in return for that convenience, Zillow was charging a convenience fee, which on average, by the way, was 7.5% of the purchase price. Little known fact. Also, Zillow is not in Charleston, so it's not like you would have ever seen one of these offers anyways. We were not a market in which they were buying property. But that convenience fee was ranging for, between anywhere from 2% to 22%. And so, on top of Zillow now being an entity that purchases property, their way of thinking about it was, hey, now we're going to have more people contacting us that might want to have us buy their home directly. And if it doesn't work out, then, hey, there's another lead that we can provide you with for a cost or for a referral fee. And when they buy the property and we go to sell it, we'll hire an agent that's paying Zillow a bunch of money, and we'll get a referral fee from them, of course, and leads, generated for the agents at cost, of course. And so they just started gobbling everything up, including homes, and it didn't work. So, a lot of us have seen this Zillow's Zestimates tool, which the company was using as a starting point to determine how much to pay for a property. And really interestingly, the company's median margin of error was 7% for properties that were not currently on the market. So if you look deeper into their actual numbers, and then after this, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but if you look deeper into their actual numbers, which are posted on their website, by the way, this is what you'll find. For anything that's not currently on the market for sale, an off-market property, obviously a situation in which an accurate estimate of value would be really helpful. Zillow's estimate was within 20% of the actual sales price 85% of the time. Zillow's estimate was 10%, was within 10% of the sales price 64% of the time. It was within 5% of the actual sales price only 39% of the time. In other words, if you're selling a house in Charleston County, which averages $700,000 right now, by the way, then only 85% of the time they could accurately predict that your home would sell for somewhere between $560 and $840. I mean, that's really what they're saying. So I know a lot of people still use Zillow's estimates and that tool, but their system is and always will be flawed. They rely on not just county data, public data, sales data, but they rely on consumer entered data. They don't know what kind of condition your home is in. They don't know what kind of upgrades you've made. They don't know what the value of those upgrades are in comparison to the other homes in your area, on your street, in your neighborhood that do or do not have them. It's a flawed system because they'll always be missing that kind of information. Unless they completely overhaul it and they ask for you as a consumer to start entering that data. But that means that everybody in America is going to have to start putting in, well, here's when I updated my kitchen, and here are the countertops that I put in, and here's the quality of my cabinetry, and, do I need to paint my home? Yes or no? That could be a $10,000 difference. And it's totally subjective. So if you want information on what your home is worth, take Zillow's lead on this. Don't use their tool. Use a real estate agent. We're the ones that know. If I was responsible for heading up a department that lost hundreds of millions of dollars and that resulted in a company having to lay off 25% of their workforce, I'd be viewed as pretty ineffective, wouldn't I? So I think that Zillow's estimate, while interesting, is subject to verification by somebody that actually knows the market. And that's where the real estate agent come in. That's where the human element is going to be very challenging to remove from this process. So if that's something I can help you with, if you're curious to know what your home is worth, and we're going to talk about this a little later on too, but what are some projects that you can do around the house? What's worth doing? Are there some things that people have been coached to do to their home that actually don't make them any money? The answer is yes. So if I can help you with any of that, feel free to give me a call. 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or check us out online at listingsincharleston.com. And you can always send me an email. My email address is brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back with more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.